get started, Danny. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dominic Duda. I'm the Growth Marketing Manager here at Estuary, and I'm joined by my colleague Danny, who does developer relations here at Estuary. And welcome to Estuary Agent Skills from Setup to Success. This webinar is going to give an overview of our newly launched Agent Skills features. These are a set of skills that your AI assistant can use to create production-grade Estuary pipelines in whatever coding tool you're using. We are compatible with over 45 tools. You describe the pipeline in plain language, and the agent can build it, monitor it, debug it, and you still review and improve everything before anything is executed. So today, Danny is going to be walking through agent skills and setting it up, kind of some of the common skills there. And if you have any questions throughout this, please feel free to drop it in the chat, and we will have a Q&A after. But with that, I will hand it over to Danny.
Thank you so much, and hello everyone. My name is Dani. I do developer relations currently at Estuary. I have a background in data engineering. I've been building data pipelines for the past 10 years, mostly by hand, and recently using agents. So it's a whole new word, and I'm very happy to show how Estuary Agent Skills enable these agentic data pipeline development workflows nowadays. So I assume most of you all in the audience use some kind of AI agent. So if anybody would like to type in the chat which one, like Claude Code or Codex or any of those, then that would be very interesting to see. For this demo in today's webinar, I'm going to be using Claude Code, but the skills should be completely agnostic, and they will work exactly the same in whatever agent you use. So yeah, if you don't know about Estuary, just very quickly, it is a data infrastructure, an ETL platform. The main purpose of the tool is to move data from point A to point B with a lot of extra added functionality, such as transformations, real-time change data capture, all kinds of goodies that we won't necessarily touch on today, because we are mainly going to talk about how agent skills can be used as an interface to use the platform. So the problem with not using agent skills is that a lot of people have tried using Claude or ChatGPT to create configuration that the Estuary platform can use, and very often these AI assistants run into issues because they don't know how to use the tool, they don't know about edge cases, they don't have access to the latest documentation, and they just lack context in general. So in this example on the slide, you can see a config that was created by an AI assistant without the necessary skills, and on the right, a version that used the skills. So the motivation from our side for creating these skills was that we have these years of knowledge about operating the platform, and we wanted to distill that into an open source collection of these descriptions that we can share with you and your AI agents. So you don't have to waste time figuring out all these yourself. So a lot of times, people who use the platform, they spend most of their time not actually using the platform, but learning how it works, learning about, reading through the documentation, learning about a lot of things. And having these agent skills makes that time a lot shorter, because they can do that research for you and give very targeted instructions while explaining the necessary background knowledge for you to understand what it will actually do. So that's what I will show as well in a few minutes. I only have a few slides, I swear, so this will be quick. So yeah, well, if you haven't encountered agent skills as a term yet, just very quickly, it is an open standard. It is an open standard of essentially markdown files that contain a lot of knowledge and playbooks on how certain things should be used, or what tools should an AI agent use to achieve certain results. They are, as I mentioned, agent agnostic, so you can use them in Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, whatever your company already uses. They are readable by humans as well. And ours is available on GitHub. Dominic sent the link in the chat, so you can check them out anytime. But the idea is that it is essentially a new interface for the Estuary platform. So historically, we had the dashboard and flowctl, the command line tool, and through or using either of these, you can create connectors, you can check their status, look at the logs, anything that you want. And now with Agent Skills, you can also use your AI agent to do these things for you. And in a lot of cases, this proves to be faster and easier than doing it yourself. And I'll show that in action soon. So to give you an example of how an agent skill, a beginning of an agent skill looks like, this is a snippet from the Postgres connector creation skill. As you can see, it's completely readable by a person. It contains clear natural language instructions and links to documentation. So it's a very condensed playbook of how actually a human would create a Postgres capture. If you scroll down further, it didn't fit into the screenshot, but if you check out the actual skill, it contains a lot of common errors, edge cases that might happen. So all the things that can go wrong, missing inputs, and so on and so on, that if happens, the agent can refer back to the skill and propose a solution to actually resolving those issues. So why this is actually interesting and important for a data platform and a data engineer building a data platform or using a data platform is first and foremost that the knowledge your AI agent gets will be as up to date as possible. Like they are explicitly told to check certain parts of the documentation, and they know where to look at the latest information, and that's always useful. Second, and I think that's probably my favorite aspect of it, is that there's a lot of tribal knowledge. And this is not necessarily just true for Estuary, but every tool that you use. There's a lot of discussions in communities on Slack, in our Slack community for community Slack, for example, or Reddit, or certain other platforms where people talk about using Estuary, running into some issues with some connector, and then finding a solution. And all of these can also be condensed as knowledge into these skills. And also because Estuary is first and foremost a data integration tool, there's a lot of intricacies on how the tools that we connect work. So a data engineer who might want to model data in Snowflake shouldn't necessarily know about how the write-ahead log in Postgres works. But your agent can help with that as well in case you run into any issues while setting up the connectors. And of course, there's a cost aspect. Unless you're token maxing, you are probably looking at your usage every once in a while. And if you just let an AI agent wild and let it try to figure out an issue by itself without any guidance, that can really rack up your token usage. So agent skills help with this as well, because it condenses and guides the agent on where to look for knowledge, where to try and find answers, and it just cuts the loop down a little bit. By the way, if you have any questions, then we have some dedicated time at the end for Q&A, but feel free to just write it down in the chat, and maybe Dominic, you can interrupt me if there's something that I should answer.
Sounds good.
Cool. So what we actually ship currently is 30 something skills, I think,
37.
in the repository. 37?
37, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and it's increasing every week. So a lot of skills, mostly centered around creating connectors, because that's the most important, or that's the first step that most people take with the platform, but also around operating the platform, which is where actually more of the hands-on work happens. Like when you have to look at the health of certain connectors, when you want to look at the sample data that you ingested before materializing it into a destination. You want to look at the logs. You want to look at the performance. You want to just get an idea of what you have in Estuary. And yeah, we provide skills for those as well. And the third category is the foundation that helps you get set up with Estuary through your AI agent, like authenticating and actually installing FlowCTL, our command line tool, which the agent utilizes to communicate with the platform. So yeah, one of the first or the main concerns for people interacting with the data platforms and using AI agents to do so is safety. All uh, all safety operations are embedded into these skills. Everything that the agent would do on the platform, you have to approve by default, unless you configure it to be autonomous. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend that in the beginning. So yeah, you can look at every change that the agent wants to do, approve or reject, or tell it to do it a bit differently. All the secrets for authentication are immediately encrypted and never sent as an unencrypted text to the platform. So there's no risk of leaking any safe data or any important data. You might ask, why not an MCP server? And the good news is we also have an MCP server available. The MCP server's purpose is not helping the agent interact with the platform through actually provisioning resources. The purpose of the MCP server is to expose our knowledge base to the AI agent. It has access to all the documentation we have and all the content that is important for knowing pretty much everything about the platform. So what I usually recommend is to use the skills and also configure the MCP server, and that way you or your AI agent will know everything that there is to know about the platform, how it works under the hood, because the code is there as well. So it will be able to find all the edge cases and also operate the platform itself through the skills. Okay, so demo time. Yeah, so for the more interesting part, I'll try to set up a Postgres to ClickHouse pipeline. I have a Postgres database running on my laptop and the ClickHouse database also running on my laptop. And I'll try to use my agent to create an Estuary connector for Postgres and create an Estuary connector for ClickHouse and see if we can move some data. So let me just share my other screen. Or actually, I have to share my whole desktop. So, Dominic, could you let me know if I'm sharing the Estuary dashboard?
Yeah,
Cool.
you're all good.
All right. So yeah, what you're looking at now is the Estuary dashboard, which I will not be using for today's demo, and apart from just walking through what we actually created through the AI agents. If I were to normally use the dashboard, create the connectors here, we'd go to the sources, new capture, find the connector that I want to integrate or create, like Postgres. I would have to fill out this form, all these details, configure them, maybe go here and in this help section and read the documentation to understand what I actually have to do. And it's a lot of work, and I have to understand how the dashboard looks like. And even if it's not complicated, it still takes some time. And then I would have to go to the destination, create another connector, and so on and so on. So instead of all that, what I want to do is just hop into my development environment, which for me it looks like this. I'm using Conductor, which uses Claude Code, as I mentioned. Here is the section where I'm going to chat to the AI agent, and here's the actual repository that contains the Docker file for the database, Postgres database, and the ClickHouse database that I'm going to use. And as I mentioned, yeah, I have the database running here. So you can see here that I have a few tables like orders and customers. So let me just select our from orders. Let me just count. So we have that many rows, and if I run this select again, you can see that we have a few more, just to uh, show you that we are pushing data live into this orders table. So in my other terminal window, I have a ClickHouse, warehouse setup, which has only a page view table, which is a default table in ClickHouse, I think. So we are going to populate a few more tables here. So in the deck that I showed earlier, there is this first prompt that says, set up a CDC capture for the orders and customer tables from my Postgres database. So I'm just going to go back here and paste it in here. For this demo, I'm using Opus 4.8. I think pretty much almost any model will be usable for something like this, because the skills are so descriptive that we don't really leave any decision making to the model itself. So I haven't really tried it with like older models, but you don't have to waste your tokens with something like Fable, for example. So let's see what happens when I send this to Claude. Based on a few tries I did earlier, the whole process will take around a minute or two. And as you can see, the very first thing that it realizes is that it should use the Postgres CDC capture or Postgres create skill or activate that, which is great. It's exactly what we want to do. Immediately direct the agent to use the skill, because the skill contains all of the details that it needs to set up the actual connector. And then it does a few more thinking, or does a bunch more thinking. It figures out how to connect to the database. I'm running it locally, so that's pretty easy. But in your environment, you probably have a Postgres database in AWS or Google Cloud or something like that, which would take a bit more time. But you can always help the agent by telling it where to actually find the database. Yeah, so you can see that here it actually uses flowctl, the command line tool as well. So it does have access to the Estuary platform. It actually runs the discover step here, which means that it tries to discover the tables. And for some reason, it says no tables discovered. Okay. Okay, it was looking in the wrong place. Okay, so see, it runs into an error and then it fixes itself, and now it was able to find all the tables in the Postgres database, the customers, orders, and products that I showed earlier. And it also verified that the write-ahead logs replication level is set to logical, which is a requirement for the change data capture connector that we're about to set up. Also embedded in the skill, these prerequisites on the source side that it should go through. For example, for Postgres CDC streaming, you need a publication too. And you can see here that it runs a query in the database to look if there's any available publications, and it didn't find anything. So it realizes that I need to set up a publication and watermarks tables since they don't exist yet. And this information comes to the agent from the connector documentation, which it was able to find because the skill told it to do so. So yeah, no publications exist. And then it actually creates the publication for me in the Postgres database, reruns the discovery to find the tables and make sure that everything is in order. And it goes through verifying all the other prerequisites and actually creating the connector. If I go into the code part here or the repository part in the top right, you can see that it created a bunch of files for me. These are all the YAML descriptors that Estuary, the platform itself, uses. And a few months ago, or a year or so ago, you might have written some of these by hand or used some AI agent or assistant to write them for you. But now with the skills, there's way less chance of any of these files being incorrect because they know the latest spec, they know what to put in them, they can verify them. So it's all another level of automation. Like if we peek into the orders schema, for example, this one, you can see here that it generated the perfectly ready schema for this orders table from the Postgres database. It has all the fields that I want to replicate. It was able to discover them through Estuary, and all the configuration is ready to be published to the platform itself. As you can see here, as I mentioned, credentials are never used as plain text when the agent creates a connector. So you can see here that only the encrypted versions make it into the final specification before it gets published to the platform itself. Okay, so back to our little window. Okay, it looks like it was done. It took 17 tool calls and 24 messages. And the summary is that it created the capture, streaming public customers and the orders table into Estuary collections. And here's a summary of the steps that it went through, which is great. That's always good to know and verify that it did the right thing this way. And at the end, it says that the status is okay and it's actually streaming events. So I'll go back to the Estuary dashboard to see if that is true. So here we should be seeing a new connector, and it is indeed there, published 2 minutes ago. It's a Postgres connector. It has written almost 200,000 documents into these two collections. So if I take a look, we can see here that the status is indeed green, which is great. Everything is running correctly. It has got all the data or the initial backfill that we want to. And it looks like all the data from the tables made it into the collections. So let's peek into orders, for example. This is the view of the orders collection. And if I scroll down here, we should be able to see a preview of the records. And yeah, so you can see that there is an order record here, and this one was canceled. Great. So it looks like the connector is indeed working and is indeed writing data into these two collections. If I look at the edit history, you can see here that it used flowctl, the command line tool that the agent uses through the authenticated user that I was doing for this demonstration. So that's all good. Now, that is the first part of this pipeline. Obviously, we want to move the data into ClickHouse and not just leave it in Estuary. So I'll go back quickly to this slide and just copy the second prompt, which tells the agent to materialize the orders collection to our ClickHouse cluster. So I'll go back here and just paste that in the window as well. And just let it work. It will go through a very similar process to the previous connector. It found the skill that is the most important, that it finds the ClickHouse materialization skill, and then figures out the connection details and actually creates the tables in ClickHouse if needed, and starts the backfill and lets the streaming go. So while that works, I actually wanted to show the skill in a bit more detail because it didn't fit into the slide. So just to give you an idea of what other things are included. So this is how a skill looks like in a bit more detail that creates or helps agents create Postgres captures. You can see that it's broken down into steps. It really is a playbook of how a human would do or go through creating a connector like this. First, it always looks at the documentation as like the main source of reference on the requirements. It tells the agent to use web fetch to load the documentation, make sure the prerequisites are understood, gather all the requirements, make sure it also embeds here prompts to give the user if there's not enough information by default, like what kind of Postgres do we want to load, what is the networking setup, and so on and so on. You didn't see this in my example because I pre-configured the environment with all of these to not waste too much time in this interactive demonstration. But if you don't provide the information, then it does ask all of these. And then, there's a lot more steps, helps the user complete the prerequisites. If there's anything you need to set up on the Postgres side, it creates the Estuary specification file. It runs the discover to find the tables in the source. And it's a step-by-step detailed guide for the agent setting up a connector. And also very interesting is the troubleshooting part here at the bottom, because these are some common things that can come up while you do or while you create a connector like this. And it's structured in a way that it helps the agent figure out a fix, as you can see here. And the agents or these models are very good at generalizing these troubleshooting steps if they see a similar issue. So that's where maybe a smarter model can come handy. So a lot of those included for all of these different skills that we provide. And by now, my agent should be done. Cool. Looks like it's done. The orders collection is now materializing to ClickHouse. Great. So let me see what happened here. Summary. Created the materialization, streaming into ClickHouse, the orders table. Yeah, it found the connection, did everything. It actually verified that there are this number of rows present in the destination, which is great. Like making sure that the backfill run successfully and it's the same amount of rows as the source. That's an amazing thing, I would say. You can automate this for dozens or hundreds of tables that you want to set up replication for. And yeah, it gave us a sample comment to run in ClickHouse to see how we can actually look at the data. So if I go to my little terminal here and run this, then let's see. All right. Looks like there is data there, but I don't want to query the 200,000 records, so I'll just cancel that. But yeah, it looks like we do have access to the orders. This one is canceled, for example, or order 999. Cool. So yeah, and if I want to go back to the dashboard to make sure that it's actually there, I can go to the destinations page and see that the ClickHouse materialization is indeed there and live and read that amount of rows. I can go into it and make sure that, the shard information is green. Everything looks fine. The logs are also available, and things seem to be working. So that's how you set up a data flow, like an end-to-end data flow with a source connector and a capture connector. As I said, we have like dozens of skills for other connector types already, but the work doesn't stop there, of course, because everybody's favorite part is debugging pipelines. So let's take a look at how that would look like. I do have another slide here for the operations. So some common things that you usually want to ask about your pipeline are: is it healthy? Like, is it working at all? How much data has it moved since you started it or in the last few minutes? And of course, the scarier ones, like something's wrong with my connector, and how do I even begin to figure out what the issue is? So let's take a look at some of these one by one. If I go back to my agent and ask, is my capture healthy? Let's see the logic that it goes through. And you can see here again immediately it figured out that there is a skill available for this called Estuary Task Health, and it activated that skill. It knows which capture I'm talking about because of the context of this conversation. But if you have more captures, then it probably makes sense to be a bit more specific. Like, okay, is my capture called this or this healthy? And okay, we already got the result. Your capture is healthy. That's great to hear. I was hoping there would be no issues. Is able to see the current state. Is able to capture or gather recent failures if there's any. Also, the amount of data flowing through, details on errors, warnings, if there's any. Look into the history, publication history, condense all of this information into a nice little message tailored to you. Yeah, and it told me that there's a few warnings, but it's all right because it's probably just warnings that once retried, they went away. So yeah, the verdict is that it's healthy, 0 failures. So another common question: how much data you actually pushed through the platform? And for this, you could look at the dashboard, filter down the usage table, or you can set up the Open Metrics API and look at the super granular information of statistics there. But those all would require you to context switch, which is something that engineers don't really like. So using these skills, you can stay in your environment where you do everything else pretty much nowadays. So let's see how much data he was able to collect, or how much data my pipeline actually pushed through. And you can see here also the information is very nicely condensed. The capture moved this amount of data in this many transactions, then the materialization connector into ClickHouse moved this many documents, which is this many data. And yeah, it even gives you some pointers on how to interpret this data, which is something that you would have to do yourself by looking at the docs and while looking at the dashboard. So it's a neatly condensed view. And the last example is something that doesn't really make sense for me to run because there's nothing wrong with the ClickHouse connector. But let me see if I can maybe simulate an issue, like stop the ClickHouse container. So I'm going to tell Claude to stop the Docker container that is actually running the ClickHouse connector, which killed my terminal in the bottom right, which is great. And it actually gave me a heads up that the task will now start failing. So if we want to look at the dashboard to see how this materializes on not intended, it might take a few seconds until it flips into red because it is not able to access the ClickHouse connector. Let me see the logs here. If we can run into any issues. Or maybe I can just refresh. Yeah, this might take a bit more time until it realizes that things are not happening. It is not running, right? Or did it also restart? No, okay, it didn't restart. So, okay, let me try pasting this query or this prompt here now because I know it's not running. So something is wrong with the ClickHouse connector, diagnose it. Obviously, it's able to pick up some of this context and it's like, yeah, you stopped the container. Like obviously, it's not going to work. But if you didn't do that and there was some other issue, then it would figure out, or it would try to diagnose the issues. Now he's going to tell me to just restart the connector. Okay, so that's not really a good way to demonstrate the Estuary side of things because it just told me to start the connector again and it will start working, which is fair because that helps. But in a production environment, what you would see here, instead of start the container backup, is that it would be able to find the root cause of the network connection not being there, for example, because it times out after the connector tries a few too many times and it's not able to reach the destination. So yeah, that part of the demo I didn't test before, so sorry about that. Yeah, so those are the use cases that I planned to showcase or show in this demonstration. If you haven't already done that, you can get the skills by going to our GitHub or just snapping this QR code. It's super easy to install. You can actually install it using the plugin command from the cloud marketplace. There's also npx, which is a great tool that you can use to install agent skills into any agents on your machine. But all the agents or all the skills are available here in this GitHub repository. So definitely follow this or start it, because we're going to update this with a lot more. Yeah, and as for updating these skills with a lot more, we have hundreds of connectors, and all of them sooner or later will be able to be created and managed through these skills. So we are definitely working there. If there's any connectors that you think we should add first, then let me know. We are very hard at adding derivations to these agent skills, and some of these are already ready. So if you want to implement transformations using your AI agents, that's already possible to some extent. So I definitely invite you to try, but it's something that we want to make even better in the future. And yeah, if there's any more or any other environment where these skills are not yet usable, we would love to create a version of them where that enables that. So yeah, let us know if you use some agentic environment that doesn't or is not able to use these agent skills. Yeah, that's everything that I had for this short session. So we do have some time dedicated for questions and answers as well. So yeah, let me know if there's anything, or should I stop sharing the screen? And no, I should keep it on, right?
You can keep it up. Yeah, we have a few questions. But yeah, thank you, Danny. This was a great overview. We do have a few questions from someone. I'll just dive right into them. Do these skills work for all deployment versions of Estuary?
Do the skills work for all deployed versions of Estuary?
Mm.
Yes, I would say yes. The only thing that these skills need is flowctl authenticated on your machine. So if you can install flowctl, and the skills can actually help you install flowctl, and you can create a access token in the Estuary dashboard, give it to flowctl, then that's it. If flowctl can access your Estuary resources, then the agent skills will be able to too.
Awesome. And then this is kind of a two-parter question. How is schema evolution made easier with either the skills or the MCP? For example, is it not possible to just tell Claude Code, I want to have all tables that are in a given schema in schema Y in Snowflake or ClickHouse?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it is easier because this functionality is something that you can already do in Estuary. If you dig a bit deeper into how it works and how read schemas and write schemas are used by the connectors, how you can organize those, how you can write reflections and simple derivations to modify those schemas before the data lands in the destination, or how you can actually organize collections in your materialization connector, directing them into different schemas. That is something that you can already do, which means that the agent itself can update those configurations as well for you, instead of you having to do it yourself on the dashboard and configuring everything. So if you have an idea like this, you can just tell it to the agent, and it will come up with a plan on what it wants to do. and you can just tell it to, okay, update my connector definitions and essentially just do it for me. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and one of our engineers had mentioned too, I think in the recent batch of skills that we just launched, schema editing was part of that batch. So we do have 6 dedicated skills that are related to schema editing and evolution. Awesome. Do we have any other questions about agent skills? Danny, I'm curious, for people who maybe are not as technical, right? You kind of have these adjacent roles, your data scientists, your data analysts who are working with pipelines that engineers are building. How can skills help them out?
Yeah, I would say for them, it's great because I talked to a few analysts and analytics engineers, and they do most of their work is data modeling, which used to mean writing DBT models, but now it really means conferring with an AI agent or an AI assistant to write those data models for you based on the knowledge that you can provide. And that also happens in a similar environment. And I think for them, it can be super useful that they can stay in the same environment where they do their modeling and just tell the same agent to create a connector, to add a new field to an existing connector, or rename some connector, or rename some field or table in Estuary that comes from MySQL database without having to switch from this context, or without having to actually learn about the platform. Because a lot of analysts or BI folks, they just want to stay downstream of the ETL tool. But with this, they don't really have to like learn about the tool itself. They can just ask, like have these very specific requirements that a year ago would have gone in a Jira ticket somewhere. But now it can just go straight into Claude, and Claude can just do it for you.
Awesome. Give another minute for questions. And then I think, yeah, we can wrap it up, give people their afternoon back.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. Feel free to write any questions you have, or if there's anything that comes to your mind later. We have a Slack channel open for the community right here. Go to dev/slack, where pretty much all of our engineers are there, and me too. So if you have any questions later, just that's probably the best place to go with them.
Yeah, we also just added a new showcase channel in our public Slack. So, if you're playing around with skills and you build something, you want to show it off or you want to ask questions, that'd be a great place to just share what you're doing with this. We'd love to see how people are using skills.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So I think we'll wrap it up there. But yeah, like Danny said, we have our Slack here. If you would like to contact us or reach out to our team, if you're an existing customer, you could talk to your rep, and we can schedule some time to talk through skills more, and just learn more about how it can help you out. But with that, thank you everyone for your time today and for joining us. We really appreciate you giving up an hour of your Thursday for us. Danny, thank you for walking us through agent skills.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.